First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And the hunger is coming. All right. This is an article, yet again, another article. This is from rtnews.com. And as you can already see in the headline, it says German producers warn of food shortages. And it's looking like this energy crisis, along with a few other crises that are not only looming but are intensifying, is really gonna lead to a lot of food insecurities, security insecurities, and a lot of social unrest. Okay, because this energy crisis, remember, energy is something that is widely used pretty much by everyone, and that includes manufacturing companies. That you have some that manufacture and mass produce food, but also other things as well. Okay, so it says manufacturers of both frozen and fresh products say they cannot cope with soaring energy costs. Germany's frozen and fresh food producers have warned that rising energy prices may soon force them to stop operations, according to Daiwo. Now, as these crises get more dire, people are going to be looking for government intervention, and that's going to lead to rations, and rations lead to governments having more control, because you call them to step in, they step in, but that means you need to give them more control in order to step in. And when they step in and now you want your freedoms back, you realize that you can't get that, right? When the pandemic was going all around, right? People's governments started to step in and they required these emergency powers and these new acts and these new terms and things they put into place, and before people knew it, their freedoms were taken away. But it says here, and I believe it was in Sri Lanka, the whole gas situation, where people were required to show QR codes in order to get gas. So when they start to ration things, that means you have to go to them for it. All right, that means they also come down on hoarding. So don't be surprised as things get worse. Eventually, when they declare martial law, when they start going house to house, rounding up people's goods and people as well, as it tells you in Second Ezra, the 16th chapter, they shall cast them out of their houses. But going on, it says and it's very important to keep up with this news, because it's progressing. It's not static. It's not just staying in one place. It's progressing. All right, and it's going all around the world along with other things. There are significant supply gaps in daily food supply for people in Germany. The situation is more serious, or Salakia, the situation is more than serious, an open letter from the industry said. Companies now fear that production lines will soon come to a standstill and that refrigerated logistics centers for food distribution will be closed. Some are even preparing for possible insolvency. All right, and let's type that in here. Insolvency. If I spelled that. The state of being inability to pay one's debt, bankruptcy, in other words, collapse, ruin, failure. Okay, and that's not something you want to hear from anything dealing with food manufacturing or food production, because that's bad news for you. The letter was initiated by the German Frozen Food Institute and the Association of German Cold Storage and Logistics Companies, and signed by 5 other industry groups. It was addressed to Chancellor Olaf Scholz, Federal Minister of Economics Robert Habeck, and Federal Minister of Food Sem Ozdemir. According to the authors of the letter, the financial standing of food producers is deteriorating every day. And this is exactly what they want. This is a part of the process of you owning nothing and you liking it, right? You're gonna eat the bugs. All right, you will eat it and you will like it. Um, it says here, according to the authors of the letter, the financial standing of food producers is deteriorating every day, which could soon result in a wave of bankruptcies in the industry. In the food production industry, that's not good. Doesn't sound too good. It sounds prophetic, but it doesn't sound good for people. They warn that government intervention is needed to salvage the situation. In particular, they are calling for financial support for energy intensive medium sized producers. Oh, okay. That was a pretty late airdrop. But yeah, so going on, it says in the deep freeze chain, the food industry is currently experiencing the worst crisis since the end of the Second World War. And you know what? It's only going to get worse and worse and worse until the prophecies get fulfilled. And the prophecies, I believe, Second Ezra, the 16th chapter, for example, goes into how a lot of people on the earth are going to die or perish of famine. And then it says, I believe it's around the 18th to the 24th verse, around that area. But it goes on to say, and those that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So until you start seeing that happening, guess what? This thing is only going to get worse, because the reason these things are happening and food insecurities are becoming more of a main issue is because it's leading to the fulfillment of the prophecies. Those prophecies, those biblical prophecies, have to be fulfilled. And what you're seeing now is the beginning stages of it. Whether you believe it or not, whether you like it or not, that's not going to stop it. And if anything, if you if you choose to remain ignorant, that's going to be to your own demise. Right? As it says in Romans 3:3, for what if some did not believe? That's not going to stop these things from happening. Every day you wake up and you see these articles or you listen to the news, you can hear what's on there. And it's not stopping because you're saying, "Oh, I don't believe it's going to get to that point." It's still happening, and it's still getting worse. The food industry, da 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 da. It says it's a minute to 12. Act now, otherwise the refrigerators and freezers of the German population will soon be empty, the letter urges. Now, they're already planning for, in case the whole grid goes down, they're already planning for social unrest because people cannot heat their homes. Now you're adding on their food insecurities, not even to the point of the food is there, you just can't afford it, but the food is not going to be there because of the same problem that's freezing you at night. How do you think people are going to react to that? Because once, look, if food prices are going up because of inflation, and then you make food even more scarce, what do you think is going to happen to the prices then? Germany, and soon people are just going to give up on paying for it and they're just going to start taking it. Germany, along with the broader EU, is facing a sharp rise in energy prices and a record inflation surge amid intensifying anti-Russian sanctions and a policy of abandoning Russian fuel. The situation could soon lead to energy rationing and shortages. The frozen food industry is particularly susceptible to energy supply problems due to its strong reliance on electricity for freezers. So you better get ready, and like I say, man, don't look at it as, oh, that's all the way in Germany, it's fine. The problem that is affecting Germany is not isolated to just Germany. Just because you haven't seen the full effects of it here yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Now this is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, verse 57. It says, thy children shall die of hunger, and thou shalt fall through the sword, which the sword is a weapon. Thy city shall be broken down, and all thine shall perish with the sword in the field. They that be in the mountains shall die of hunger. And it's not going to be just those in the mountains, those in the cities. Because those that are in the mountains are going to flee there. Some of them have already started. But going there does not mean that you're going to be exempt from judgment. The exemption from judgment comes by way of Ezekiel 9 and 4. All right, having the spiritual mark of exemption from the Lord. That's the only way to escape these judgments. So whether you're in the mountains or the cities or the suburbs or wherever you are, when the food goes out, the food goes out. You may have stocked up a little bit here and there, but that's only going to take you so far. And that's only if you can, number one, protect it, number two, access it, because you never know where you're going to be. They that be in the mountains shall die of hunger and eat their own flesh, because what comes with hunger? Severe, intense hunger for long periods of time comes cannibalism. People start to eat each other. They start to eat others. They start to look for the weakest link. Start exhorting others to take one for the team. All right. It says, and eat their own flesh and drink their own blood for the very hunger of bread and thirst of water. So you can imagine just how intense that hunger and thirst is going to be, because blood is not even something blood is thick. It's you know what I'm saying? Like, just even looking at it, you can so people, I mean, sheesh. All right, moving on. This is Jeremiah 19 and 9. And I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons. Now, Jeremiah at the time, when you read in the book of Jeremiah, he was a little prior to the invasion of or the siege by the Babylonians. All right, the siege of Jerusalem by the Babylonians, and the Lord put the spirit on him to warn Jake, all right, about the Babylonians coming. Okay, so a part of the verses you read in the book of Jeremiah, there are certain chapters that are dealing with that time, but then they can also be applied now, and there are certain chapters in there that are prophetic, solely prophetic, and then there are others that, like I said, are events that the Lord said would happen to Israel in the land at the time, but those same things are going to happen to Israel again in this time. All right. So this is Jeremiah 19 and 9. It says, and I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters. So now what's going to what is going to make them eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters? The lack of bread, the lack of food, right? So just like the Lord had the Babylonians besiege Jerusalem back then, which when you see besiege a city or a fortress or wherever, you cut off its supplies going in or anything coming out. And eventually when they run out of resources, they start to starve and eat each other and so on and so forth. Well, guess what? The Lord is going to do the same thing in this time. He's going to, like we read in 2nd Ezra 15, he's going to bring a famine, because there is a global siege going on. Okay, that's being set up by these world governments and these world elites. So it says here, and I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they shall eat every one the flesh of his friend in the siege and straitness, wherewith their enemies and wherewith their enemies and they that seek their lives shall straiten them. So guess what? In this time as well, we have enemies that are seeking our lives, and they are going to come with straits, and they are going to come with difficulties and make it next to impossible for you to make it out unless you bow down to them. So when they start rationing food and energy and all of these things, it's going to be a easier thing for them to tell you, well, now we want you to take this, this MOTB or this CHIP, just for example's sake, and then you can get your rations, because that's how we're going to identify you and yada, yada, yada. And if you don't, then you're not getting anything. This is the kind of power that it gives them. When you cry for them to, step in and do this, yeah, they'll step in, all right. But then they're going to tell you, okay, well, now that we have control of this and we need to make it accessible in a reasonable way for people, these are the policies that you need to follow in order to get access to it. So moving on, this is the book of Lamentations, chapter 4, verse 10. And once again, and Lamentations was really dealing with the after the destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians. Okay, but it says, the hands of the pitiful women have sodden their own children. They were their meat in the destruction of the daughter of my people. Now, when in the ancient world, mothers actually had, you could say the morale of people was different. Yes, There were wicked people in the ancient world. This does not mean that there weren't. But the mindset and the moral of women or men, all of them, especially in this time, is so far gone. Okay, so in the if back then in the past, they with all the love that they would have, they were still able to eat their children because of how hungry they were. What do you think these people are gonna do? Who just walk around and pop out babies just for child support and freaking claiming them on taxes and getting benefits, that don't really even care about their children, that don't know how to be mothers. They don't have that. You think it's gonna take much for them to eat their children? A lot of them have kids for themselves, and then they use the children as a means to get back at the baby father, the baby daddy, or whatever, as a weapon. They use their children as a weapon for them. So you have a lot of people out here who are not, parents for the sake of their children. They are for themselves. So do you think it's gonna take much if it comes down to them or their child? You will have people eating their children in these times as well. You will have people seeking to eat others, because that is how messed up they are going to be. They're going to lose their minds, quite literally. And when they lose their minds, it's not going to be strange for them to eat their children or to eat other human beings. Okay? They don't have the resolve. Neither are they expecting these things to happen. So when it happens, they're not going to be prepared. And they're going to get hit, and they're gonna give in. They're gonna turn into beasts of their environment. So, I mean, prepare to see some pretty fearful sights, because that's what these crises are gonna bring. But anyway, with that, I'm gonna end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.